that's just crazy.
You're
to
like,
think
that's
about.
so sad.
After watching this episode, you will be motivated to make consistent, quality content for an audience. And for it, you will get more views. That's my hypnosis class for you.
I love it. I think that one should have been done ASMR style, though, but
I know.
Just listen to my 5 simple tips.
Right. We'll do ASMR, but content creator tips.
Yeah.
No, we will not be doing this whole episode in ASMR or anything like that, but we will be talking about being consistent online. It's one of the hardest things, and it actually comes from a specific comment someone left. So thank you very much on YouTube. And because I do want to thank them because it does help us really kind of dive into something deeper too that people might be experiencing. And we found that this one could be a very popular one that a lot of people deal with. And I know I've heard about it and have had the issue myself with how do you stay consistent and keep the quality high? And what's that balance of consistency and quality? So we're going to talk about all of that today.
Yeah.
And starting off with, I think a good question is, how do you stay motivated? And actually, no, let's talk about consistency first.
Yeah.
You are somebody that, when it comes to consistency, you are somebody that I think does it the best of most people. I mean, I think you've told me this before, that you have been making a video pretty much weekly for 10 years
Yeah.
on YouTube.
I mean, I can count on one hand the number of weeks that I've skipped. And they've been like, I had COVID. I was getting a divorce. like that's it.
Come on.
Like huge
really?
things. I lost my father. Like big life things. Otherwise, if my life is just normal, normal highs and lows, I'm posting a video.
Yeah.
And I honestly say, like, I don't say this to like downplay my talents or anything like that, but that is a huge part of my success is just consistency. There are so many people who are smarter than me, prettier than me, more talented than me, all the things. But they posted, 4 videos, 5 videos, 10 videos, 20 videos, and then they quit. And that's why I've maintained longevity. So again, I don't say that to downplay my talent or whatever, but like it is a huge piece of the puzzle is just sticking with it.
It is key. And I think that that's one of the tips you kind of hear a lot of content creator tip YouTubers share. And I think a lot of people discredit it because they say, oh, well, they have 500,000 followers now or subscribers. You mean even you alone have 230. It's hard to get a tip from someone like that to relate, And I feel like, though, that is the consistent tip. I mean, to give my own example of it, for TikTok, posted 3 videos a week for a year. And in that year is when, granted, it came from a seed, me going viral, and getting 3,000 followers. And then from that, growing that to a beautiful flower that was 100K followers by the end of that 1 year. So essentially, I gained 97,000 by being consistent because it just gave me more views. It got more content out there to try. People knew that I was going to be sharing content consistently. I think is what's really interesting, and I'm curious your thoughts if you agree, is that point you brought up about doing 10 or 20 and then quitting. I do feel like that is a good marker of if someone's going to stay consistent or not. Can they get through that initial 10? If it's like, let's say a YouTube video, I think that's when people tend to almost fall off. And then they forget the tip that they got initially, which was if you stay consistent, it'll work out better.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know the number offhand, but there is this phenomenon in the podcasting world called pod fade. Because you hear these stats that there are like, however many hundreds of thousands or millions, who knows, podcasts at this point. And so everyone says, oh, it's too saturated. I shouldn't start a podcast. There's too many of them out there. But again, I don't know the number off the top of my head, but like a very large portion of those have experienced pod fade, meaning there might be 4, 5, 10, 20 episodes, and then they haven't uploaded in years. So I say that to like, it's not as saturated as you think. Like there are not really that many active podcasts or active YouTube channels or active TikToks,
I mean, even me, you have Ryan Redoute and host of the So Your podcast that has 18 episodes, I think. but
Mhm.
I haven't uploaded a new one in years.
Yeah. Right.
And I think honestly, I think that's an amazing point for people in thinking of whether or not I should start a YouTube, be on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, anything.
Yeah.
Is they're going to say there's all this content saturation, and there's a lot of content out there. Don't get me wrong, but there's not as much as you'd think that are
Yeah.
active, consistently posting, relevant
Mhm.
with things that are of new, things that people would actually be interested in. Those are two main points that anyone starting a new platform has the benefit of.
Yeah.
Is if you can be consistent and if you can talk about relevant things, you're already kind of beating out probably half the ones out there that have been discontinued essentially.
Yep. Absolutely. But yeah, I mean, I it's interesting. I feel like we always have very different sides to the coin, and I love
Mhm.
this because I am one of those people who, I think the question initially it said, um, how do you stay consistent, especially at the beginning when you don't see the results right away?
Mhm.
Like you did have this viral kind of moment, like a springboard. I have never really had any viral videos. I mean, I've had some that, have more than others, but I very much was that person posting for crickets for like honestly years. It's kind of
Yeah.
embarrassing. I'm like, who was I hey
How
guysing?
many
Who
views
was
would
the
you say you
guys?
got?
Under 100 for
Yeah.
most of my YouTube videos for I would say at least a year and a half to 2 years. I
Mhm.
was it would be a good video. I'd consider it a success if it got 100 views for
Would you
years.
would you that's it's just
You're
crazy to
like,
think
that's so
about.
sad. Like you pathetic little
Oh my gosh,
but
that's
I'm
so
here.
pathetic. No, just kidding.
Yeah.
No, because I mean, I think that so to give people a perspective as somebody who is used to like on Instagram, on TikTok during that time, I would post
Mhm.
a video, and granted that was like the golden age of TikTok.
Yeah.
I would get 20,000 views in an hour or two.
Crazy.
So my mindset was great to that, geared toward that. But now with this podcast, even we're starting newer.
Yeah.
Which, if you haven't subscribed yet or followed us, be sure to do so if you like it.
We hit
Uh,
100 subscribers on
I know I
YouTube.
was gonna say 100 subscribers on YouTube, which I think is a big deal for us
Yeah.
just starting this off so quickly, and having about 6 or 7 episodes now at this point down. I see it as a big success because
Yeah.
I know that it's about creating that seed that you can
Mhm.
eventually and grow from, and that anything you grow, like you can kind of just capitalize it. And social media, a lot of times, it might be over the course of years, tends to have that snowball effect
Yeah.
more than it's like setting you back in any type of way, I guess.
Yeah, totally. And obviously, just want to put this out there. When I said pathetic, I was joking. I was joking
Yes,
because
no.
and that's the thing. And I didn't think it was pathetic. I was like, wow, you can look at it two ways. You can compare yourself to Ryan Redoute, or whoever, insert creator here, and you can say, wow, he's getting 20,000 in an hour and I'm getting 100 over 2 weeks. You can do
Yeah,
that. Or you can say, wow, 100 people who didn't know who I was before now knew who I am, or I
yeah.
helped 100 people or whatever. And I think that was, again, I do think in some ways, starting almost 11 years ago, or maybe 11 years ago by now, there was a privilege in ignorance to some degree because
Yeah.
I didn't know what was possible. I was like, sweet, 100 views, 50 views, amazing. And so
Mhm.
I just encourage people to go back to that a little bit. Like, try not to compare yourself to us or people,
Mhm.
anyone in your niche who's been doing it longer or has things you don't or whatever. Like, compete with yourself. And that still is my rule of thumb today. I'm like, I want to maintain my kind of view average. I don't care about what XYZ creator is doing. I want
Yeah.
to compete with myself. And I think that's what'll keep you going and keep you motivated. Because 100
And
people is a lot,
it's a lot.
you
Honestly,
know?
especially for even like creating just wanting to create a community of niche people that you think are interested in what you want. I think that could be super small,
Yeah.
honestly, and still feel like you're actually making a big impact. And I want to hands down tell people, even at the I'm not saying I'm at the larger level in any kind of way, because I'm not, but at like I don't know how to word this in the best way, but at the top level, which I'm not at, but followership just like does not matter.
Hmm.
It does not, especially when it comes to SEO is going to impact your video probably a lot. It's going to be just general reach and shareability of your content and how
Yeah.
people feel about it. And if they're typing up paragraphs on your YouTube videos versus just like, I love this,
Yeah.
like those are the things that are going to make a difference, which I think can be accomplished with a more niche, smaller audience.
Yeah.
Because to put in perspective for you, the followership that I have like on Instagram, I look at other accounts sometimes, even though it's not always great to do that, I think.
Yeah.
They have millions of followers and we're getting the same amount of views.
Yeah.
So to me, that says, oh, okay, like clearly I'm creating some pretty good content. And that doesn't happen on every video by any means, don't get me wrong.
Mhm.
But I, you can really find a lot of power in just being smaller and more niche. I
Yeah.
think that that's a good lesson.
Absolutely. And I think the other thing, that I'd offer outside of just, you know, celebrating your wins even when they're small is it's also important to create stuff that you actually like. This is why, people, I'm sure you've gotten the question, I'm sure we'll get the question in the comments at some point. Well, what type of content should I create? What's the most profitable niche? What's the most hot topic to make? What's the blah 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 blah? Just like which platform should I start on? My answer is always, well, what are you passionate about? What are you knowledgeable about?
Mhm.
What can you talk about all day long? That,
Already.
yes,
Keyword already.
yes. You don't want to get into a niche where you have to read 1,000 books just to be, knowledgeable
Yeah.
enough to talk about it. You don't want to create something you dread and you hate creating every day because
Mhm.
eventually you can only play that part for so long before it starts to catch up and it starts to show in your work. And honestly, that is how I have been consistent. I love creating videos. I have loved creating videos since I was a little kid,
Mhm.
and taking photos and recording things. I literally did that when I was a kid.
Same.
And it's fun, right? It's just, I like what I genuinely did not mind giving up a lot of when I was working in corporate. I gave up a lot of my weekends to film videos and edit videos. That was like a fun hobby for me. It was a fun
Right.
creative act for me. So if you don't find it that way, you might be somebody who needs to outsource their editing or something like that, because if you're like dreading it and hating it, you're not going to stick with it. Who's going to do that? Same with working
Mhm.
out. Like, it took me so long before I found consistency in fitness because I didn't find a workout I liked, and then I found Pilates and was like, okay, I actually enjoy and look forward to this every day. That's how I'm consistent
Yeah.
you know
That's an amazing life thing to bring up, especially when it comes to like fitness, because that's a very like polarizing thing for people of
Yeah.
you see these people with like ripped bodies and are looking so healthy. And you have to really understand like, okay, some of those people live in LA where they can run outside every single day or you run in anywhere like where it's warm climate,
Yeah.
like they
And
can
it's
do
nice and they enjoy it.
it's nice and they can enjoy being outside. They probably just love nature. For
Yeah.
you, it was finding the right class. For me, for some reason, the idea of just like being healthier and sweating and like I do that via dance, I do that
Yeah.
via other things, like makes my brain happier versus other people, that's not the case. So they
Yeah.
need to figure out what they actually like. And I think that's the same case with content creation, where this the reason why no influencer can really give everyone the secret sauce, it's because they don't know what you're passionate about.
Yeah.
And you have to, for me, it's Michigan. For you, I already grew up in Michigan and realized that I had a very pure Michigan lifestyle
Yeah.
growing up. I didn't realize it, but I did. So that
Mhm.
armed me with all this content to, I shouldn't say armed, equipped.
Watch out now.
Oh, sorry, just like
Scare
all that
you.
data and privacy talk that we had in the last episode. I'm
I
like,
know.
I'm ready to fight.
Right.
Um, and but no, it did really equip me to have all this knowledge that I mean, I didn't even start getting paid for content creation until 2 or 3 years in. So
Yeah.
you'd have to be making content consistently for 2 to 3 years.
Yeah.
It better be a topic that you like a lot. You, same thing. You were already
Yeah.
doing freelance work, but you didn't realize that's what it kind of was in the moment.
Mhm.
So really just think about what you already know. Because people,
Yeah.
I think the classic thing I hear is people to be consistent is they don't think they're interesting enough to make that
Yeah.
much content about it.
Yep.
But trust me, I want to know a lot of things. I need to know a lot about other things in very sometimes like isolated cases,
Mhm.
very niche how to do things,
Yeah.
learn more about purely about something. So there's really an audience for everybody, and I truly believe that's still the case.
I agree with you. I agree with you 100%. Yeah, you have to like it because, yeah, otherwise it's going to feel like pulling teeth. So,
You will not succeed if you don't like what you're talking about.
yeah,
Period. It's like I don't mean to put that end all be all on people,
yeah,
but I just feel like some people have talked to me and they've wanted what I have content creation wise, and I say, okay, well, you got to pick something you're already good at. You got to be good with being in front of a camera and talking to nobody
yeah,
besides the camera. And three, you have to be prepared to give up a lot of time.
yeah.
So you got to like it.
And I think this is an important differentiation to make. And I don't say this, there's no value statement associated with this. There's nothing wrong with either side, but I do think it's important to know which one you are. I think there are content creators, people who like to create content, people who are creative. They enjoy, maybe if the internet didn't exist, we would be working in film or television or
Yeah.
writing books or photos or whatever. And then I think there are businesses who see the value in content and the internet and social media and know they need to create it. And I think it's important to know which one you are because if you're in that latter category, honestly, my advice for you is probably to hire an agency, hire a freelancer, hire an in house content creator who does live and breathe this stuff, who
Mhm.
can do it for you and allow you to enjoy the benefits of content without actually having to, spend your nights and weekends doing it.
Right.
And I think it's important to differentiate because I think everybody knows that they need content and everybody wants to be a creator because they want the benefits that come along with it. But it's like I love to paint, but like I'm not trying to be a painter because I know I would not love to paint like
Yeah.
all day every day and like I don't love it that much,
Right.
whereas my artist friends are like they just have paint all over them all the time,
Right.
like and like I could never do
You're like,
that.
really? Before breakfast, you were using a blue paint already.
Yeah.
No, that's
Mhm.
an amazing point because I think that for people getting into the game of content creation, really look at are you do you like the production side? I think you and I
Mhm.
both have that little bit of production. Like you said, if the internet did not exist, I think we both would definitely, I know I would be in film. I don't know
Mhm.
what specific role within
Yeah.
that I would have, but I would definitely want to work in the film industry. You, I think, even like the equipment technical side
Mhm.
of things and talk about it even more than I do.
Mhm.
Versus like I think I venture more into like the um idea, I guess, of it all, like the
Mhm.
script writing, the
Yeah.
things like that. Like I live for that a little bit more almost. I think people need to really think which type you are so that you can make sure to, like you said, hire out if needed, really play to your strengths the
Yeah.
best you can.
Absolutely. So, with that said, how do you because I am actually really curious to hear your process because I feel like I've
Mhm.
talked about my process a lot like on YouTube and stuff like that,
Yeah.
but how do you create a bajillion TikToks every week?
My brain literally thinks, one, my brain thinks in like filming.
Mhm.
So if somebody tells me something, if somebody brings up something, let's say about Michigan, because I make Michigan content for anyone who hasn't watched the previous videos, I automatically, my brain goes right into it of thinking out what the different viewpoints of the camera I can get, of what's it going to look like with what I'm wearing, what am I viewing, what I'm viewing myself literally into this short film. And
Mhm.
then I make sure to write that down in my notes app and I describe it. I pretty much write out a mini script in my notes app for all of the videos I do, or at least have the idea. And if the idea is easy enough to convey, I
Mhm.
don't need to write out like a full script per se.
Yeah,
But
right.
I definitely know that during my work week, my process is really like each day I kind of go into it thinking I could record a video today.
Mm.
And because I'm putting out three a week still, I would say, and I'm having to, people think that with like short form video, you do save on time. And I will say you do save on editing a bit,
Yeah.
but not really, because especially in the world of TikTok and short form reels on Instagram,
Yeah.
every millisecond
Mhm.
counts. So that work that people typically put into a long form content, I still have to do pretty much the same work, but it's just micro movements of
Yeah.
things or micro recording, like of me
Yep.
doing a different, slightly different inflection. So
Yeah.
I have the benefit, and I think this is something that's a little bit of a hard truth, and I don't think it's inhibiting in any way, but just a hard truth people need to know, that I'm able to create all this content because I work from home. I
Mhm.
have a quiet sound studio of a
Yeah.
home, if you will. I have the free time to where I don't have a supervisor breathing down my neck, telling me where I have to be and when I have to be there.
Mhm.
So those things really do help me, uh, they enable me to be a content creator throughout my day. Daylight's coming in, the lighting's good.
Yeah.
Versus if I didn't have those things, I'd have to be recording on the weekends at night, kind
Yeah.
of like you were when you were working corporate still. So
Yep.
I love that you brought that up, because that's kind of like the two ways of going about it. But yeah, process wise, luckily the ideas just keep flowing in, and now, I mean, I think you've texted me something in the past, been like, "Hey, this is a funny Michigan thing. You should talk
Mhm.
about it." And I always
Yeah.
write that down. I have, like, my
Yeah.
husband gives me ideas sometimes, and I'm able to take those ideas and really blow them out to whole videos pretty easily, as
Yeah.
long as you give me the little bit of a little thing there. And
Yeah.
otherwise than that, I spend some of my time just consuming content
Yeah.
and seeing what's trending, what's out and about. It's kind of like how big corporate people I've seen in the past, they have like the news kind of always on the TV in their office, so that if
Yeah.
their company's big enough, they can know like what people are talking about,
Yep.
what's trending, things like that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
You're
so
really, I feel
interesting.
like you're very structured. Is that the
I
case?
yeah, it's interesting because that's what I was gonna say. I feel like you're like fluid, like, ooh,
Yeah,
maybe I could film today, maybe not.
right.
And that really stresses me out. And this is maybe something that is like an old school YouTube ism of, of me coming up in a different, I guess, era, if you will, that I
Hmm.
need to let go of. But I'm like, when am I going to have hair and makeup? That's how I plan my filming is
Yeah,
honestly around, all right, like this day, this hair wash day, okay, like nail
yeah,
day. Um, and then I plan everything else around that. And so I say, okay, here's my filming day. I'm gonna have hair and makeup looking good, looking great, film, batch film. And then the rest of the week is more of like when I'm doing editing, pre production stuff, life stuff, meetings. And it is really important for me to have, again, I know this is like kind of like a privilege, if you will, but I don't plan anything else. If I'm filming, this is different because it's like more casual. But if I'm filming for
hmm,
the podcast, my main podcast on YouTube, that's all that's on my calendar that day. I can't
hmm,
like take a meeting with Ryan and then go run down the store. No, like I
yeah,
am filming and I have like a long get ready with me that like really calms me and like puts me at ease and
yeah,
gets me ready for the day. So, yeah, I that is something that I think really hinders me cuz I'm like I would love to record a quick TikTok, but it's like I don't feel camera ready
yeah.
and I don't want to not feel camera ready. But also I think people like it when you're not camera ready, you
Yeah, it's
know?
like you get that little bit of authenticity, but no, I think that I mean, you're in the space to where you've put in the work, you've set yourself up really nice to that you do have the privilege, we'll say, well, that's the only
Mhm.
word I can think of
Yeah.
for it, of you're a content creator, that's your job. It's 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 what you're doing.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm almost still like in that midway to
Mm.
where like content creation hasn't been is not my full-time only thing yet, to where I can still, and I think this is like my goal for this year, be more in the space that you're in and aim for
Yeah.
that a bit more and sacrifice a little bit for that.
Yeah.
I think that it's hard though sometimes, like on a given day where I probably have like client related meetings every day.
Yeah.
And then out of that meeting, maybe something comes up that I have to touch on and that I don't want to let go unnoticed and I need to work on that day. And then it
Yeah.
throws me off because creatively I'm trying to, you know, be in that headspace still to record, but then I can't
Yeah.
because I'm supposed to be super joyful and high energy in this film. And then by the time the meeting's over and it's winter time and it gets dark by 4:45, 5 o'clock,
I know.
I can't record outside like I wanted to, and
Yeah.
it's done. So know that like those types of things get in there more, but you need to. I think I want to go back almost to like that first year, Ryan, that
Mhm.
was able to always make sure like at lunchtime I'm setting aside the hour
Yeah.
to get the at least some content out, work on something to a degree, so that I at least know like every day I'm at least spending an hour or maybe two now because I have to, because quality needs to be a little bit higher. Um, and that's my
Mhm.
new flow, you know. But yeah,
Yeah.
for you're not wrong though in that I'm definitely it's funny because like whenever we talk about things, I will say that yours sounds so like put together and like that seems less stressful, and
Yeah.
that I need to be a little bit less free flowy so that I know I can rely on certain things
Yeah. I think there's
to
pros
help.
and
But
cons to both.
yeah, I was gonna say that I would say the pro of me being a little bit more sporadic is like the other day, I was like, hey, I'm really feeling inspiration to make this video that had 10 different scenes, 7 different outfits, and had to edit it. And I posted that day and I went to bed so excited
Yeah.
because I was like, man, I accomplished so much today. You
And
know?
you have to know, because I've done the same. Like news has dropped, or
Yeah,
thing.
honestly,
I
that
remember.
happens too.
Yeah, I remember a big one was when Elon bought Twitter X, and I was like, I have to talk about this. I remember I was sick that week. Like I had really bad, like I was sick for like 2 weeks. And so my voice sounds really like gravelly in it. And what I did is I actually went live. I did a live stream because like we had to
Hmm.
talk about this. And it did get a good amount of views, even being a live stream because it was so topical. So you do have to know, find the balance in that.
Yeah,
Speaking of getting dark, by the way, just in case you're watching if you're
the
watching
light.
and you're like, are my eyes playing tricks on me? No, Latasha's video did change. And this is actually like I think another good tip. So I just changed. I'm filming on my Logitech Brio, and I adjusted because it is getting dark. But
Yeah,
this is another tip I have for people is to make it so easy for yourself to film. Like,
yeah,
what is the minimum viable? Again, try not to compare yourself to your favorite YouTuber or your favorite TikToker and like the amazing camera. Like Ryan, you're talking about 7 different scenes. I'm like, I'm lucky if I can do a face to camera whole, shaky TikTok. Like that's a win for me. And so yes, it's one thing to like have aspirations. Check out The Gap if you haven't. I'm sure I've shared that. Have you seen that, Ryan?
mm-mm.
Okay, I'm gonna
I
send it
think
to you.
I remember you mentioning it. What is it
Yeah.
though?
It's The Gap. It's by Ira Glass. It's like there's a video that goes along with it. It's basically just saying, when you are a creative person, you have taste. You know
Yeah,
what's good. You look at Ryan's TikTok and are like, that's good. You look at my podcast, you're like, wow, I love her set. But there's a gap between when you're first starting and how when you can actually be at a 7 scene
yeah,
TikTok. And that's a hard place to be in because what you're creating kind of sucks.
yep.
But you have to just keep kind of sucking a little bit less with every single video and
Yeah,
eventually you'll get there. So yeah, like for me, like what I was saying, I this is a Logitech Brio. It's a webcam, and I can control it on my computer. I can adjust the exposure and stuff like that on my computer. And when I'm feeling really lazy or when I'm like I really don't want to do a video, or when maybe there is like a topical thing, like I talked about, like the Elon thing, I can just film on this, and it
yeah.
records in 1080p. It's not my fancy big setup that requires like I use like an iPad as a monitor and fancy
You're
lighting and
you're set up on your I mean, I've texted you about it just
yeah.
randomly of like it literally looks cinematic level.
Oh, thank you.
It's insane. And
Yeah.
again, though, I think that I love that you're bringing this up because it has always been like there's a lot of points where it's been looking really good, but I would
Mhm.
say like this past year and a year and a half, 2 years, it's like cinematic. And that's like
Oh, thank
what
you.
the back like 2 years
Yeah,
of 10 to
right.
12,
Oh, yeah.
you
Imagine if I
know?
gave up on year 2 because I didn't have, like, the best YouTube video ever?
Right. Like imagine if you watched you now and thought like, "Oh, I don't
Mhm.
have that. I can't set it up."
For
Okay, word.
sure.
I
For
mean, even
sure.
now, I mean, you guys have maybe noticed that in like one of the first 2 episodes of this podcast, my video looked amazing.
Yeah.
And I was so excited about it because I was able to tie my iPhone into my laptop webcam and I didn't feel like investing right now into
Yeah.
different types of webcams. So I think though that our audio is good
Yeah.
and that you have to like I think you had said this point in a previous video of I'd rather have good audio than good visual. And
Absolutely.
you showed the example, I think, afterwards, or I've seen other examples of
Mhm.
people saying that as well.
Yeah.
And it couldn't be truer.
Yeah.
I mean, like visually, as long as it's okay
Yeah.
and people can hear you, that's what
Mhm.
people hearing what you're saying is way more important, I think.
Yeah.
And helps build your community. It gets your
Yeah.
message across. It makes your impact. Visually, you can do that too,
Yeah.
obviously, but a lot of times in movies, you'll see they have to do a very beautiful scene
Yeah.
to impact people without saying anything.
Yeah.
So you have to always just like use what you can
Yeah,
and don't
absolutely.
be afraid to start without the fanciest of products.
Absolutely. Yeah, and if there are ways, like I keep looking around because I've got my tripod, that's my podcast tripod. Like it is
Hmm.
always, I very rarely move this thing. Like it stays in the same spot. So when I need to record, it's just so easy now. It's like a
Yeah.
system. I just flick it on, turn the light on.
Yeah.
So yeah, if there's any way you can do stuff like that too. Same with my webcam. Like I have it on a boom arm, and it's really easy for me to just swing it around when I need it. So make it easy on yourself to create. I always tell people, even just like using QuickTime on your computer. I use that all the time to
Hmm.
record. Like it's so simple to just open the program and start recording in movie
Yeah.
mode. So don't make it harder than you have to, because otherwise it will be that thing that you dread and that you put off and that you're not
Right.
consistent with.
You got to go with what's simple.
Hmm.
You have to. Like,
Yeah.
I can't stress that enough
Yeah.
to what's simple, what's accessible, what you can like. Oh, you know what? I wanted to mention one thing though that is funny about when you're setting stuff up in your house. I'm
Yeah.
like a little bit of like, not like a neat freak, but just like I like things in where they should be.
Yeah.
So it's hard for me because I wish I could just like keep certain things out in
Yeah.
like certain podiums or tripods and things like that. But my brain's like, I can't go to sleep unless it's put away. But that's
Hmm.
the benefit of like a studio or something like
Yeah.
that. That's why people eventually will invest, because it's just so low stress to maybe like get out of your home and
Yep.
have this perfectly set up situation, or that one that you can rent
Yeah.
that has everything already perfectly set up for you, and you just got to walk in, hit a
Yep.
couple buttons, focus something, and then hit play.
Yeah.
It makes a big difference, and eventually, as time goes on, many people will get to that point.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely. Absolutely. But yeah, got to start somewhere. How do you like make the time for it? Because I think that's
yeah,
another thing that impacts people's consistency.
I think the best thing I can say is my interest in it really drives my drive
Hmm.
to actually make the content,
Hmm.
because without my passion for it, I would not I would not be making videos at
Yeah.
all. Like it would be so hard for me in the middle of this stressful day to close my laptop
Yeah.
and say, "Hey, I got to record this video and edit it and get it out because I haven't gotten anything out in 4 days."
Yeah.
And so I think that having a passion for what you do, which ties back to, which side of the content creation uh, process are you
Yeah.
most attracted to, and really diving into what that could be for you
Yeah.
helps a lot.
Yeah, I agree. And I was talking to actually a friend just earlier today about it. And I was like, you have to figure out where you can fit the content into your life too, if
Yeah,
if you can. Because like we're a great example of this. These podcasts were we did just like mastermind calls. We would just
right.
touch base on our content businesses specifically. And at a certain point, I was like, we should just be recording these conversations because there's good stuff in here. And like, yeah, I mean, we did add some complexity to it,
It's pretty
obviously.
much the same.
But like, yeah, more or less, we already had the time block on our calendar. It's like, let's
Yeah,
just keep that going, extend it a little bit, get camera ready before the calls, and it fits into your life. So
right.
figure out if there is a way. I know like a lot of people record short form videos in their car when they're in the car pickup line, like waiting for their kids or
Hmm.
whatever, or like whatever little fragments of time you can get it, like use those to as content opportunities.
Yeah. No, and I was gonna, yeah, to add to that, if you like, I work for myself. That helps me punch in the time that I need. If you don't
Mhm.
work for yourself, use up those lunch breaks.
Yeah.
You get when you get home to have that plan of,
Yep.
and really, I think you had even said it in a video previously about you like set a meeting time on your calendar
Hmm.
just to like make it official. Because
Yeah.
even if like you don't end up even doing it, possibly it's nice to know like I set aside this time for me to
Yeah.
do this on a weekly basis or daily or whatever you need.
Yeah.
So I think making sure to just set aside the time and knowing when you wake up it's going to be a part of your day, I think helps a lot
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah. I'm big on calendar blocking. And if you can get together and do any type of body doubling. That's something also that is really helpful to me. Uh,
What's that?
co-work, co-working. So
Oh, okay.
shameless plug, but I have a group that does it, but
Hmm.
you work together. So we get
Oh yeah,
together on a
that's a good
Zoom
idea.
call and it's like Mondays at 11, that's editing or whatever, creation,
Hmm.
video related time. So you get together on a Zoom call with other people who have a shared goal. And it really helps just to prevent you from, hey, gonna run downstairs and grab a snack or gonna put that off and do something else, because you
Hmm.
have that accountability. So that helps too. If you're like really struggling to find the time or make the best use of your time, you don't have to do mine. Like, get some friends together and
Right.
work on stuff together. Go to a co-working space. Even sometimes just being on the coffee shops helps me because I'm like, everybody else is quiet and working on their computers. I guess I better actually
Yeah.
edit.
I don't know if anybody else feels this way or if you do, but I definitely realize that I am actually somebody who focuses better when like there's stuff in the background, whether that's
Yep.
people in a coffee shop, a movie, a show. Granted, I'm not picking my favorite movie that I want to
Yeah.
watch really bad. I pick like one like today I worked on a report, which was really, not the most exciting work,
Yeah.
but I had this movie on that was kind of like an indie film. And it
Yeah.
was really great because it helped me to just get that little bit of like mental break,
Yeah.
even though like you're
Mhm.
adding more content to the mix. I know it sounds like weird, but I
Yeah.
don't know if anyone else feels that way. But yeah, like having other people around or
Yep.
something else, I think really can help
Yeah.
with that.
Absolutely. So, I want to know your take on this
Hmm.
big question because I feel like, well, I'll just say the question. Do you think that quality or quantity matters more when it comes to content creation today?
Ooh,
Because the
good
question is about
question.
consistency. It's like, is it better to post 4 really amazing YouTube videos for the year or post 4 okay videos a week?
I think, especially when you're starting off, that quantity matters more
Hmm.
because you don't know what people want quality of
Mm-hmm.
yet.
Yeah.
So I would say, like in the beginning, I didn't think too much. I knew a topic overarching that people wanted to hear more about. I didn't think as much into each one, like how many shares is this going to get?
Yeah.
I wasn't analyzing it nearly as much as I do now for every video that I make. So I would say in the beginning, definitely more quantity. And then as time
Yeah.
goes on, your quality does have to become more important because
Mhm.
it's what's going to differentiate you. But at the same time, too, I would say quantity actually remains more true because I think in time, you'll inherently just have the more quality.
Yeah.
Like you'll be better naturally, versus quantity is what you have to think about and focus on more
Yeah.
personally. What do you think?
I think that was so well said. I
Oh, thanks.
really,
I was
yeah.
really happy with it too. I was like, wait, that's a good
You're
point.
like, hold on, wait, I'm smart. What the heck?
I was like, hold on now. Hold on. That's great. That's great advice.
Yeah. No, it was. I agree. I was more thinking of it in terms of like where we are in the era of content we're in, but I think you're
Mhm.
also right about like the stage of content creation you're in, or beginner versus intermediate versus
Yeah.
like experienced. But yeah, to add to that, I think the same is true. Like I think back in the day, if you will, quality kind of mattered a little more because I mean, you think about early YouTube, it's like, how did people even have cameras? Like that was such a like,
Yeah.
you kind of had to be like this like filmmaker level person to like
Right.
know how to do some of this stuff. And now, especially with like TikTok and short form content, people are a lot more comfortable just seeing somebody film something with their phone
Right.
or one
And
of those
iPhone cameras are
stupid
so
little lav
good.
mics. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, like you don't need a professional podcast microphone necessarily. You could just use those little handheld like people are more comfortable with a little bit of like amateur equipment for lack of better words.
Yeah.
That I think you don't need to be perfect about that. And you're right. Like the
Mm-mm.
iPhone camera has advanced so much over the years that it honestly is so good. I use it for vlogging all the
Yeah.
time. So I think that, and I also just think the speed at which content moves nowadays, like it's overwhelming. There's so much content. Things were less saturated
Yeah.
in when there was only YouTube as the only place to post videos. It was like that is why a lot of people blew up, if you will, because they were like the one person making insert niche here content.
Right.
Now it's like there's so much, so you do kind of have to play the volume game a little bit more, I think.
Hmm.
That's not to say you should just post crap, because if you post
Yeah.
1,000 crappy videos, that's not going to equal one good video.
No, I think, yeah, wait, that's a good point to add to my point as well.
Hmm.
Of when I say quantity, I definitely don't mean even like one a day. I
Yeah.
mean 4 videos a week. If you want to
Yeah.
put that into whatever thing, I would say 4 videos or post per
Yeah.
week. So again, I think over time I just naturally had that quality kind of stay with me slash develop,
Yep.
in knowing that I can't I can't create a gem every day.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
not possible.
Yeah. I agree. And one thing that I'll just lastly add is I think having my podcast has really helped me stay consistent,
Hmm.
because it's like it's a uniform look, feel, sound topic.
Yeah.
Just like for you, probably like your Michigan accent videos.
Hmm.
That's if you don't know what else to post, maybe it's going to be that.
Yeah.
Like, and you can batch. Like that's an easy thing to batch. Like I batch my podcast because I have a similar setup,
Hmm.
similar format. So think of something like that too. If you're struggling to stay consistent, think of what can like my signature series be, or
Yeah.
my, signature format be. Because if nothing else, then you can do that.
Yeah. I think you have those things to fall back on because even on you're gonna have that week where you just don't want to post anything. You can
Mhm.
say, "Hey, at least I can help get something out,"
Yeah.
to keep active and get a message of some sort that I want to share
Yeah.
across. Yeah, I think that honestly, so you would say you would agree that with everything I said, quantity, quality wise.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think there has to be a balance, but I do think it is quantity matters
I
more
think
than
it's
it did.
time because I
Yeah.
mean, there's so much going on, especially as we get older. I think we add. I don't want to say we add more to our plate, but I just
Hmm.
feel like more mental space gets taken up. I don't know
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
Yeah.
To where I feel like I have less time in a given day, and I
Yeah.
don't know if
Oh
that's me
my
getting
God.
older, if that's just society right now.
I
But
know.
I mean, the fact that we're doing this now and we're already coming up to the end of the day and I have something planned for this evening
I know.
and I have to do fit something else in between that.
I know.
Like I think time is of the essence and time's
Yeah.
really important. So I think that quantity, yeah, like tends to be more of the thing you think about the most
Yeah.
often.
Absolutely.
Anything else to share from your end? I think that was really good.
Yeah. I hope you just start creating. That's my hope always.
I think that's a great
Just,
send off.
yeah.
We really hope you all just start creating if you haven't yet. And if you are creating, try to even add a little bit of structure to it. Cause as much
Yeah.
as like I'm free about it, I think my constant thinking about my content is my structure. So,
Yeah.
and I think that that is needed even in a more free kind of schedule content
Yeah.
type of way.
Absolutely. So good
And yeah,
luck.
leave us a review if you like this podcast episode and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube or follow if you're on your favorite podcasting platform. And yeah, like I said, this is based on a comment. So if you have ideas for future videos you want us to touch on or questions you might have, we might just be able to blow it up to a whole episode.
Yeah.
So let us know. And other than that, we'll see y'all soon.
Bye.